Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where in the world you're joining from. We're going to talk today about labeling biotics from a regulatory rules to marketing claims, and this would apply to the United States. I'd like to thank Lallemand Animal Nutrition and the attendees for attending the webinar. We really appreciate your attention. I'll have my contact information at the end, so if there's any additional questions that we don't get to in the Q&A session, please feel free to email me or contact me. I'd be happy to try to help. So the outline for the discussion today is we're going to talk about the history of the supplement issue in the United States. We'll talk about the National Animal Supplement Council, what we do and what we don't do. The claims are always a big topic, and that'll be a focus of this webinar as well. And it really is based in the United States around intended use. So I'll give you some references that you can refer to that I think will help, because you don't want to have business interruption in the US with a stop sale notice from a state or any notifications from FDA Center for Veterinary Medicine. We'll go through some examples on AAFCO products, the meaning feed products, and then talk about the differences in dosage form products or animal drugs, and then we'll have time for Q&A at the end. So it's important for people to realize that in the United States, the Dietary Supplement Health Education Act does not apply to animals. The FDA Center for Veterinary Medicine published an opinion in the Federal Register, the US Federal Register, in April 1996, and there's a link on this slide. You can view that if you'd like. That in the opinion of the agency, meaning in the opinion of FDA, in their opinion, the US Congress did not intend for the Dietary Supplement Health Education Act to apply to animals. This was a legislation nationally that created a category for human dietary supplements, and many people think that since human dietary supplements are widely available, that the same rules and regulations apply to animal products, and that's not true. So on the animal side, we have two choices. We have animal food or feed, nutritional products or nutritional supplements. Those would be products intended to make a nutritional contribution as a component of a complete and balanced diet, or you have drugs. That's all. Those are the only two categories. So we'll look at the law and see how the products are regulated. One of the big differences in the US is we're regulated on the animal side at two levels. The Food and Drug Administration, Center for Veterinary Medicine, has ultimate regulatory authority for both food and drugs at the US federal level. Secondly, you can also be regulated by state regulatory agencies in the Department of Agriculture or other state regulatory agency that has oversight for these types of products in the US. That could be the state chemist's office, as is the case in Indiana, Kentucky, Texas. NASC also regulates products. So self-regulation does not mean unregulated. So the National Animal Supplement Council also has regulatory oversight. We have regulatory authority for our members, but we do work very closely with the regulatory agencies, both US FDA as well as state regulators, in regulation and responsible conduct of companies marketing products in this area. So here's what the law says, and it's important for people to understand this. In the United States, under the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, Section 201 G1B says, articles intended, emphasis added, for the use in diagnosis, cure, mitigation, treatment of disease, or prevention of disease in man or other animals. That's approved drug territory. So if you mention a disease, if you have anything involving diagnose, prevent, treat, cure a disease like inflammatory bowel disease in animals, that's where biotics may come in, right? Now, there may be research that demonstrates that biotics can be beneficial for animals with IBD. However, you have to be an approved drug to make those types of claims. 201 G1C says articles other than food, intended, emphasis added, to affect the structure or any function of the body of man or other animals. So let me give you an example. Supporting healthy gastrointestinal function, helping maintain the balance of good bacteria in the gastrointestinal tract, Those are not diagnose, prevent, treat, cure claims. They are claims that support the normal, healthy structure or function of the body or man or animals. However, you got to be careful because claims in that category may not be allowed for animal feed or food products, meaning nutritional products. The law in the US would cover that under Section 201F, which says articles intended as food or drink for man or other animals, or articles used for components of any such articles. And case law and precedent in the US has established the claims for these types of products categorically as claims that support providing taste, aroma, nutritional value, or technical effect, like a preservative, for example. So, if we look at AAFCO, that's the Association of American Feed Control Officials, AAFCO recommends regulatory policy, and they facilitate consistent regulation and consistent conduct by regulators, because again, remember, we're regulated potentially at 51 different levels, the federal government as well as individual states. 50 states in the United States plus FDA, that's potentially 51 different sets of regulators, depending on where the products are sold or marketed, that could come into play. So AAFCO provides a very valuable service by trying to achieve consistency so we don't have, chaos in the industry. So AAFCO says the same thing. The term commercial feed, and this is in the official publication. So OP stands for official publication. You can find these materials, and I've got reference slides later in the presentation on the AAFCO website. So the term commercial feed means all materials or combinations of materials which are distributed or intended for distribution for use as feed or mixing in feed, nutrition. The term drug means articles intended to diagnose, mitigate, cure, prevent, treat disease in man or other animals, and articles other than commercial feed intended to affect the structure or function of the animal's body. So graphically, it looks like this. If you have a product that is intended to provide nutritional value and probiotics are listed in the AAFCO official publication, you can certainly use those. You have to be careful of claims, and they have to be consistent with those allowable: taste, aroma, nutritional benefit, technical effect, and you're on the right side of the flow chart. If you support a specific structure function, as we said in G1C, supporting healthy gastrointestinal tract, that would be an allowable feed claim also. But claims that are short of diagnose, prevent, treat, or cure, but maybe outside of animal feed terminology, then you're on the left side. That's really where NASC specializes, and you can contact us, and I'll try to elaborate more on that during the presentation as we go. I'll have some examples. So the first question is always, what is the intended use as established by the claims, meaning the benefit statements? What does the company say about the product in terms of their representation and the benefits of whatever the products or ingredients are? Followed closely by, what are the ingredients in the product and do they support the intended use? For animal feed, then the ingredients will be listed in the AAFCO official publication. I'll have an example later on, and they have to be utilized for the approved purpose or benefit. The delivery form can also be a consideration, along with any other descriptive terms. For example, if you call a product a biscuit, treat, snack, cookie, jerky, if it's in peanut butter, these are standardized food terms or established food terms. And just those terms would cause the product to be regulated as a food. So you have to understand how the product is regulated in the US in order to effectively position the product. Adding to food or adding to water and having the animal consume the product free will, that makes the product or ingredient a food additive, and that would cause the product to be regulated as a food or a nutritional product. So let me look at some examples. And this is a human product, and the reason I do this is because I think most people are familiar with antacids. Antacids relieving heartburn, sour stomach, acid indigestion. This is how the product is positioned. In the US, Tums is a fairly major brand of antacids. So if we look at the if we look at the product and we look at the claims, it says antacid, heartburn, sour stomach acid, indigestion. It has active ingredients. On the back of the product, it says drug facts. The active ingredient is listed as calcium carbonate, 750 milligrams, and it's included as an antacid. It says that right on the label and the positioning of the product. So I want you to note calcium carbonate, 750 milligrams, antacid, heartburn, sour stomach acid, indigestion. If I look at a dietary supplement on the human side, it also has calcium carbonate, 750 milligrams. This product has 1,200 milligrams per serving. It also has vitamin D. But if we look at the back, calcium carbonate, 1,200 milligrams, in this case, we support strong bones and teeth. These are the claims or the benefit statements. Adequate calcium and vitamin D throughout life as a part of a well-balanced diet may reduce the risk of osteoporosis. So there's a disease. Anytime you mention a disease, that's a red flag and you have to be very careful. This has to be scientifically substantiated and nutritionally linked, okay? So in this case, calcium carbonate has been demonstrated nutritionally to benefit or may help prevent osteoporosis. Let me give you an example on the animal side. Taurine can help prevent dilated cardiomyopathy in cats. Now, that's not a probiotic, but it is an example. My point here is, if you mention a disease, you have to be very, very careful. So 99% of the time, if you mention a disease, you're going to be in violation of US law. So I would highly recommend that you get legal counsel, be sure you're on solid ground, or avoid it completely. That would be my best advice. The active ingredient, calcium carbonate, remember 750 milligrams. Here we have 1,200 milligrams, but it's the same ingredient, calcium carbonate. Calcium carbonate for nutrition in animal food. This is a snapshot of a slide from the AAFCO official publication. In a search for calcium carbonate is approved under 157.10, 582, 1191. So calcium carbonate in 5710, minimum, it's a calcium source, right? Strong bones and teeth, it's an essential nutrient. So the point here is, it's the claims, not the ingredient, that make the difference on how that product is regulated. So I wanted to show you examples, and the three are an acid product, that's a drug product, has calcium carbonate. It's the claims that establish the regulatory pathway. A human dietary supplement, that's a food product or a nutritional product. That goes down a different pathway, it's nutritional pathway. For animal products, this is the AAFCO official publication, calcium carbonate, same exact ingredient, right? So as a calcium source. So you got to be careful of the claims, but the same ingredient can be utilized for different purposes. So here's a summary slide. Intended use of all three products. On the drug product, it was heartburn, acid indigestion, and an antacid. Nutrition, it had nutritional benefits, and that was in either animal food or human food. It's the intended benefit statements associated with the labeling claims that determine how that product is regulated. Never reference a disease except if you have scientific substantiation, it's nutritionally beneficial, it can help prevent a disease state, but not treat. Okay, very important, not treat, can help prevent, but that's got to be scientifically proven. That's kind of the danger zone. I would be very careful. And again, an example in pet food, taurine may help prevent dilated cardiomyopathy in cats. And again, prevent but not treat. So let's talk about prebiotics, probiotics, prebiotics, postbiotics. So until a few years ago, the terms, just these terms, prebiotics and probiotics, were considered drug terms. So if you use the term prebiotic or probiotic on a nutritional product, an animal food product, those were considered drug terms. They would be associated with implied claims, diagnose, prevent, treat, or cure, and they were not allowed. So over time, the terms probiotics and prebiotics are allowed as terms or descriptive terms on animal nutritional products. So those terms are okay in today's environment, right? In the USA, prebiotic and postbiotic are not widely recognized as common terms, common feed terms, or, I mean, they may be developing and up and coming, but right now they're just not widely recognized. Prebiotics and probiotics certainly are, but biotics in general are referred to as direct-fed microbials in the US by both the AAFCO official publication and regulatory people. Now, regulatory people will understand prebiotics and probiotics, but if you're looking in the AAFCO official publication, you can also look for direct-fed microbials, and that's how these ingredients are referred to, like Bacillus subtilis, for example, Lactobacillus acidophilus, those are referred to, but look in direct-fed microbials in the AAFCO official publication, bit confusing in the US, but prebiotics, probiotics, direct-fed microbials are the terms that you need to remember in the United States. So here's some good sources that you can use as reference. The AAFCO website, there's a section called the business of pet food. And I put links in the presentation, and I'll show you an example. This is a good presentation on pet food. It's in the business of pet food, and there's a presentation by Mike Allowance from US FDA Center for Veterinary Medicine, who is the specialist in this area. On microbes, their use in animal feed, there's a direct link. I'm going to show you a slide from page 46 on the next slide coming up. And I'd also recommend, if you're in the companion animal or production animal side, the AAFCO Pet Food and Specialty Pet Food Labeling Guide and Labeling Workshop. They're also beneficial, and I would highly recommend that if you're in the United States and have the opportunity to attend one of the workshops, it's certainly worthwhile, as well as the Pet Food and Specialty Pet Food Labeling Guide. That's a reference and resource that would be beneficial to you. It's available for purchase on the AAFCO website. Here's the slide that I referred to from Micah's presentation, and it says direct-fed microbials, that's DFM, claims continued. This entire presentation is available, but this is the specific slide that came up. So the use of probiotic or prebiotic on the label is now acceptable, okay? Guidance for industry, complementary alternative medicine, a regulation by the Food and Drug Administration. At the bottom it says, probiotics may be regulated as dietary supplements, food, or drugs under the Act, meaning the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, depending on the product's intended use. So that's what we've been talking about. It's the claims or benefit statements that are critically important in determining how that product is regulated. So let's look at the boundaries for food or feed. One principle is to qualify that the response or structure function is normally associated with nutrition in the maintenance of a normal physiologic state or response, not a supranormal state or response. So words that are generally okay, and this is where it gets, there is not a book of black and white rules. This is what you can say, this is what you can't say. So it's really important that you understand the principles and boundaries in order to stay out of trouble. So generally okay, statements that help support, maintain, assist, helps. You got to be careful of assists and helps, that they're not improvement claims, that you're not improving the gastrointestinal balance, or you're not getting rid of bad bacteria in the gastrointestinal tract with probiotics. So be careful of assists or helps or aids. Supports and maintains are generally okay. Generally problematic would be anything that would either overtly state or imply an improvement claim if it boosts or promotes or decreases or eliminates or enhances. So if we have, you know, good bacteria from someone's product help eliminate bad bacteria, that's a statement that would probably be objectionable in the United States, and you should be aware and avoid those statements. Those are called competitive exclusion claims, right? You have good bacteria. Now, we all know that especially in the instance of, probiotics and prebiotics that feed probiotics, there's a continual challenge in the GI tract that probiotics, there needs to be a balance between good and bad bacteria. So you can help promote or maintain or support a healthy balance in the gastrointestinal tract between good and bad bacteria. The body normally does that. Okay, let's look at some examples. Food that maintain normal structure function of the body through nutritive effect. Here's an example one. The first, prebiotics improve the gut barrier. Improvement claim. You don't want to do that. That would be objectionable. How can you state that another way so it would be okay? With prebiotics to support a healthy gut or a healthy gastrointestinal tract. Those would be fine. Those claims, right? Example number two, probiotics to eliminate bad bacteria in the gut. Mentioned that earlier. We don't want to eliminate bad bacteria. You don't want to have harmful pathogens, bacteria. Those are all red flag words. Stay away from them. A statement that would be acceptable would probiotics can help maintain normal microflora in the gut or gastrointestinal tract. Those would be acceptable claims. So you don't want to eliminate. You don't want to eliminate bad bacteria. So there's a couple examples. Here's a couple more. The addition of qualifying language may help make a claim acceptable. So here's a no example. The proper balance of microflora in the gastrointestinal tract boosts. Boost, remember that's a red flag word, improvement. Boost the immune response. Now we know that the gastrointestinal tract is the largest immune supporting organ in the body, right? So you can support a healthy gastrointestinal tract. So the proper balance of microflora in the gastrointestinal tract boosts the immune response in senior cats to normal adult levels. Okay, so boost, that's a red flag word on its own, but in this case, additional language supporting the normal healthy structure function, normal adult levels in senior cats, that would make this claim in this context acceptable with additional qualifying language. Word of caution here. The more you talk, the more you say, sometimes the more trouble you can get in. So it's very important that you understand the claims boundaries so you don't say too much and lapse over into language that may get you in trouble or be objectionable, because you don't want to have interruption in business by a stop sale notice or something from a state, or certainly a notice from FDA. So here's another example. Here's what would you like to say? You'd like to say probiotics are clinically proven to relieve diarrhea and help animals with intestinal bowel disease. You can't say that. So what can you say? It's very important that if you understand the boundaries, you can help and communicate your intended benefit message to the consumer without getting in regulatory trouble. So B&B probiotics can help alleviate occasional diarrhea associated with changes in your pet's normal life, such as boarding, separation, dietary indiscretions. This would be on a dosage form product. Remember, G1C above, not a food under 201F. So dosage form products, it's occasional diarrhea, not chronic diarrhea. Probiotics help support proper balance in the gastrointestinal tract, which is the largest immune supporting organ in the body, and a strong immune system helps maintain and support good health. That's a very safe statement. It's true, it's not false and misleading to the consumer, and it's scientifically substantiated. It's also nutritionally linked under direct-fed microbials or probiotics. They support the proper gastrointestinal balance between good and bad bacteria. And the gastrointestinal tract is the largest immune supporting organ in your body. So truthful, not false and misleading to the consumer. It's nutritionally and scientifically substantiated, nutritionally linked. The consumer may read these differently and use a product for diarrhea. If they interpret them that way, that's okay. But I want to give you an example of, if you understand the boundaries, you can really get across your feature benefit message. So, summary. for biotics in food or feed. How can I make legitimate claims about my products without getting into drug territory? The claim has to be appropriately qualified. Every claim that you make has to be able to be substantiated. That's a legal requirement. Remember, context is key, and less is not necessarily more, but be careful, because sometimes the more you say, the more trouble you can get in. Acceptable claims may possibly be qualified into acceptable claims. We had an example earlier where more qualifying language helped make that claim acceptable because it was associated with normal gastrointestinal function and gastrointestinal balance in adult cats. So generally, more speech is better if it's related to nutrition and a normal physiologic state or response. So caution, I really encourage you to understand, the total scope of the rules and the claims. It is a complicated process. It's not straightforward. I wish it were. I hope this presentation has been helpful. Here's my contact information, my email address. Please feel free to send me an email and be happy to take questions in the Q&A session. Thank you so much, and I really appreciate the opportunity.